We have a lift off. Welcome to the Fit With Us podcast, episode number 15. Can you believe it, man? We're in the double figures. We're halfway through the teens.
It's a number I can't even count to, mate. We've made it.
How are you getting on, mate?
Good. No complaints. Could be here all day with
Lovely.
complaints, but no complaints I'm going to bring up on the podcast.
Aye. You're not going to burden anybody that listens with your complaints.
And saying that you should, if you're listening, hear me sounding a bit crisper this week because I have now got a new microphone, which is class.
I will see how it turns out in the audio.
Probably won't be able to hear me at all. Best podcast I've done.
Any news for this week?
No, I just realised that my wee calendar, my wee Star Wars calendar said it's Wednesday the 7th and it's actually Friday the 9th. So that's given me a bit of the bulk. So I've just torn off the pages and we're now on the appropriate day. So no, outside of that, mate, always good to go. What about yourself?
Brilliant. Love that. It's been a good week, man. Training is finally going good. Starting to enjoy it again, starting to see the strength increases. Also the ball is now very much rolling with regards to us getting our own place finally.
Class.
So we're going for a wee flat tomorrow, and I think we've pretty much already got it bought, but we just want to, go see it, just to make sure.
Whereabouts is it?
Oh, hold on, I just somehow disconnected my headphones. It's in the south side. It's in Cardonald. I don't know if any listeners are from Glasgow, but it is in Cardonald. We are both from the south side. We both work in the south side, so it makes sense to, move back over.
Yeah, class. Well, that's excitement. Proud. Well, not proud of.
Mate,
I'm proud of you, but I was going to say happy for you, mate. Buzzing for you both.
absolutely buzzing. I cannot wait to just have, I mean, both of us cannot wait to have our own space, but see, just being able to have my own kind of proper setup, because right now I'm working from my in-laws' dining room table.
Not ideal.
It's not the best. Hold on, mate. Sorry, my earphones are going nuts. Can you still hear me? Okay, aye.
I can hear you fine. It's funny now that I've set myself up technically, and then you're having a nightmare. Superb.
Right, that should be it. I keep getting a notification on my screen saying your default speaker has now changed. Yeah, we're just going to roll with it, man.
Cool. So there was a few things that were good. What the fuck is that? Did you hear that?
I heard a beep, aye.
I don't know what that is. I don't have a beeping thing in my house, and I thought it was your
Could
headphones
it
originally, mate, and it's not your headphones. I've no idea what
could it
that
be
is.
the new microphone?
If the microphone was coming from the other side of the room, then yeah, but the microphone's in front of me, and no, I don't. I, I honestly don't know what the fuck that is. Right, anyway, that's it. My house is haunted.
Ah,
We're having a plot twist on this podcast. It's the haunted episode. My house is haunted.
we're off to an absolute flyer this week, aren't we?
Fuck. What, what were we going to talk about anyway before my haunted house got in the way?
We were going to talk about, because it's, we're now into February, not seeing results quickly enough and people's expectations of how quickly they expect to see results, and why it could be completely flawed, just through misinformation that they're seeing online, etc. And just their own kind of personal expectations of where they want to be.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, let's get cracking into it.
Let's get cracking into it. So, obviously, January is done and dusted. Usually, it brings about the whole new year, new me movement. You start dieting, you start increasing your exercise, and then by the end of January, you wonder why the fuck you've not seen the scale shift at a pace that you expect it or want it to shift. And it's very important to know why this happens and how it can happen, and that it's a very normal thing to happen. So when you start dieting, when you start exercising, you might see a big drop in scales for the first few days, or maybe even the first week.
Yeah,
But this is simply just water weight from regulating your eating and improving the foods that you're actually consuming. The chances of it being actual body fat are slim to none. It's very important to remember that you didn't gain 2 stone in a month. So why are you expecting to lose 2 stone in a month? Progress takes time, just the exact same way as gaining body fat actually takes time. It takes a bit of graft to gain body fat. Um, a whole lot of doing zero exercise and eating in a calorie surplus for an extended period of time. It doesn't just happen overnight. Also, if you started training as well, if you're fairly new to training, your body's going to begin through all sorts of different things. So the scales won't actually show your true fat loss because they kind of differentiate between fat, muscle, water. They just show it all as a whole. And if you are completely new to any sort of weight training, your body's going to quite potentially be holding on to a fair amount of water. And this is just to help with the muscle repairing process due to inflammation, which is essentially what DOMS is. DOMS stands for delayed onset muscle soreness, and it's that soreness that you feel in your body the next day or two after you lift some weights. And that is essentially because your muscles are inflamed, and that needs to repair itself, and it can't do that without holding on to a wee bit of water to help with that process.
Correct. Would back you on every part of that. I think a lot of the time when people start in January, it's they've let's be fair, they're not the lightest because again, they've had celebrations, there's large amounts of alcohol, there's a couple of Christmas dinners, like they're probably a bit of eating like a child for a while. And when the first week of January, no matter what you do, providing that you are stopping that type of structure and routine, because it's not your normal structure and routine, there's a good chance that you're probably going to drop a bit of weight regardless. The bigger issue being that when you then get a little bit later into January is the fact that like we don't know how to control things. And as you've touched on, like as soon as you go to the gym, if you are going to the gym and you start lifting a bit of weight, you get muscular swelling. Your muscles love carbohydrates, they're made of carbohydrates really, and ultimately they start to draw water into them. In fairness, you probably look a lot better for it, and that's why people go, "Oh, I don't see any changes in the scales, but I look better for it." But it's more a case of how do you then continue measuring progress, because as human beings we look at ourselves in the mirror and one day we think we look good and then the next day you can look not so great, and it doesn't matter where you are, whether you are Shaniqua that's coming out of the sea, or you're like stepping on stage for a bikini competition. There's your body image and what you feel of yourself is going to change on a day-to-day basis. So it's hard to be objective about that, if that makes sense.
100%. I would, we've touched on this before, ways to track progress. I always push photos on my clients and everyone that I know. Just anybody that's starting a weight loss or fat loss journey, take a photo before you start, and then you could take another progress photo in 4 weeks' time, 8 weeks' time, 12 weeks' time. Use that to track and monitor your progress rather than what the number on the scale says. Don't let the scale number dictate whether you're doing things right or whether you're doing things wrong, and don't let it dictate on how you should feel on a day-to-day basis, because if you get up and you're 2 pounds heavier than you were the day before, again, completely normal thing to happen. You could let that get to you so much that you just hit the fuck it button and go, well, what's the point in me trying? Because I'm trying my hardest and nothing's working.
Yeah, actually, to put that in a relative example, I over the last 3 weeks had lost 3 kilos. I know, pat myself on the back and all that, right? But when I weighed myself the other day, I was back to the weight I was actually at the start, like first day of January, which was 4 kilos heavier. And I'm like, how the fuck am I 4 kilos heavier in a day? Like, what's happened? And then I realised that I had sculled, well, I say sculled, I'd done 5 packets of tender stem broccoli. I think that's a new record. I'd done it the day before. Mate, I was in the mood. I was just, tell you what, I'd done the shop, mate, and Jen's given out to me about the things that go off, expire, everything else. And I looked at it and went, all these bags of broccoli are set to detonate at the same time. I can't let that happen. So I got competitive with it, mate. Got the Frank's hot sauce out, smashed the broccoli into Frank's hot sauce, mate. I'm telling you, like the bowel movements were extreme the next day, but like I was definitely 4 kilos heavier, and nobody got 4 kilos heavier due to broccoli, did they? Like nobody gained 4 kilos of fat by broccoli. So back down to near enough normal now, but there are small things. Like certainly shouldn't let scales dictate your progress in the short term. Long term, there will be a difference between you losing 10 kilos over a 3-month period, but short term, like there are so many different variables that will affect it. So just on the progress pictures, like I done a post on toilet roll, where it's like if you pulled a piece of toilet roll off every single day, if you kept on looking at it, you probably wouldn't notice a massive difference. But if you've done that every day for 4 weeks and compared to its original state, you'll notice a difference. You do it for 6 weeks, difference, 8 weeks, difference. You'll notice that there are changes compared to its original size, if that makes sense.
Aye, absolutely. Using the toilet roll is a very, very, very good example as well. Pulling a square off every day, you're not going to notice any difference. And then, like you said, if you compare it to its original state, starting point, it's going to be a massive difference. And that is the exact same with regards to fat loss as well. You look in the mirror every day, you're not going to see any changes. Other people start to notice changes before you do. And then if you can compare where you started to where you're at now, see the visual changes, that's going to give you that wee bit of inspiration that you also need.
Yes. Yeah.
Actually, come back to your broccoli. Fucking 5 packets, that must be what, a kilo?
Leave that in the bin, mate. That was, well, there were 170 grams, so I think about 850 grams total by the end of the day, mate.
My God, that is one fibrous poo.
There is, mate. And there's a good amount of protein in that as well. So even if I was a vegan for the day, mate, still hit my protein target. Just throwing that out there.
Showing the vegans how to get it done.
Say 5 bags. Actually, no, I don't, because they'll end up stealing my tender stem broccoli. I'm telling you, it's every time I try and go to the shops, it's like a hunt trying to get them. This is my issue. This is literally the issue. We can call this podcast the fucking broccoli epidemic of 2024, but every time I go to the shops, you don't know if you're going to be able to get broccoli or not. So when you do, there's usually about 5 or 6 packets. So I grab them all at the one time. Because I do that, I then overstock. And then when I've overstocked, they all go out at the same time. So I go through 5 bags of broccoli every couple of days. And I'm like, nah, excellent. There we are. 5 bags, done. See ya.
Oh yeah, we go for the lazy approach and get frozen broccoli.
Mate, that's what I do need is a wee juicer. Not a juicer, a wee blender. A wee blender just so I still get the fibre count. Saying that, blending broccoli, I have done it before. Doesn't taste the best, man. But with that said, still gets it in. Probably easier to consume 5 bags of broccoli in a liquid form than it would be chewing that. I gave my jaw a bit of workout. I'm telling you, I burned those calories. Jaws, mate.
My God, man. 800 grams of broccoli is terrifying. Even just to look at.
Yeah, mate. I was going to say the farts were mighty. Not gonna.
Oh, I can imagine a couple of Dutch ovens in there as well with Jen.
Keep that warm. I'll look after her. Don't you worry.
Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand here, do you want to give people quite a decent kind of idea of how to figure out their starting calories for your weight loss journey? Now, it's very important to remember that everybody's daily calorie intake, to have them in a pretty decent deficit, is going to be different from person to person. It's all going to be different. So, excuse me, numbers that we're giving you is just a rough idea. If you're losing weight too quickly, you want to be eating more. If you're, I was going to say if you're maintaining weight, you want to be eating less, but you don't really, not for the first kind of 2 or 3 weeks anyway, because the numbers that we're going to give you will have you essentially in a calorie deficit to start with. So you just need to trust that and let your body do its thing. And then I like to call it a big whoosh. You might maintain for 2 weeks and then you'll just see a big whoosh and it will drop. It will plummet, and then you might go back to maintaining, and then it might drop. Everybody's weight loss journey looks different. Some people's looks like a Disneyland ride, a roller coaster. Other people's looks like a set of stairs. If that makes sense, if you put it on a graph.
Love that, mate. You've not got the wee board out this week to draw that.
No, I don't even know where that board is now. I need to dig it out if we get this flat.
The board's going into retirement. Yeah, I think very easy ways of doing it. Again, bear in mind that it can be slightly subjective or whatever, person to person. But hard and fast rule, if you work in kilos, would be your body weight times 23. If you work in pounds, it's your body weight times 10. Usually gives you a fairly decent number as to what to aim towards. If you're finding you're losing more than 2% of your body weight per week, then increase your calories by about 200. If you're finding that you're losing, if you're not losing body fat or body weight at that point, and again, not just on a day-to-day basis, but on a weekly trend. Get your numbers over the space of a week and divide them by 7 to find out what that number is, to get the average, and then compare it to the following week, and then find out what the difference is. And realistically, it should be round about the 0.5 to 1.5%. If it's not in that range, then decrease your calories by 200 or add an extra 2,000 steps onto what you're normally doing. There you are.
Exactly. I was going to touch on the output side of things as well, because when we are saying to you increase your calories, decrease your calories, this is all based on if you've got everything else absolutely on point. Steps are high, your training, your food, your food choices are absolutely on point. If you're going out and you're having a 2 for Tuesdays and then wondering why the fuck your scale isn't coming down, it's probably because you've got a large Domino's pizza in your system for X amount of days. That's going to show on the scale. That's going to impact the scale weight. So don't go straight for the calories. Look at everything else. And if you're ticking all the right boxes, then you can start looking at calories. But I would also go to I would always, go to the output side of things first. Can I get more steps in? Can I get more movement in? Can I increase my NEAT? I would always leave calories as the last thing to decrease, because everybody loves food, and ideally you want to be losing weight, eating as many calories as possible on a daily basis. So you're staying full, your satiety levels are satisfied, you've got more energy from the food that you're eating. You're not waking up grumpy, tired, sluggish because you're not eating enough food. So I would always leave calories. This is just a personal thing. I don't know if you agree with it, Kyle, but I would leave calories to last and focus on everything else first. If you've got all those boxes ticked, then decrease your calories by about 200.
I think most people would probably rely on more food than anything else. Nobody really wants to have to limit how much food that they have. It's like we all have this scarcity mindset ingrained into as well. You think you do or you don't, where food gives us a kind of sensory pleasure of, well, surviving, well, we need to do it. Whereas a lot of us probably don't actually get enough movement to dictate the food that we need. So I would say definitely looking at movement first. So you watching EastEnders in the background, damn it? You
Can you hear stuff?
I hear Peggy Mitchell.
It's I've got the Alexa on for Bear. Let me turn it down a wee second. Alexa, volume down. Aye, it likes the tunes to go to sleep to.
I love how Bear's getting his own tunes, mate. I'm absolutely over for that. Yeah, I'm here for
that. Every night, every day. We've actually got a podcast episode on Spotify. It's 9 hours long, and it's just relaxing music for dogs, and he gets it every night.
I thought you were going to say.
I don't. What?
I thought you were going to say it's our podcast you play to him, he just falls asleep. I was like, not the only person.
We don't know if he loves it or not because he can't tell us, but that's what happens. And he seems to sleep sometimes all through the night. He's been waking up the last couple of nights because the wind has been a wee bit intense. But yeah, it does. It seems to do the trick. He's fucking snoring his head off listening to Radio X right now.
Jen used to put on, when we first got Rocky, she used to put on YouTube videos for dogs and leave it on the telly all day at work. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Did she ever put that cartoon on? It's like the blue and yellowy kind of cartoon. Apparently,
yeah.
What's it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Aye. Apparently, it's like they use colours. They use the only colours that dogs can see. But he's been tuned into it before. See, when we were house sitting, he was wired into it, so he was loving it.
Good man, Bear. Well done. Go on.
Just touching on the calorie front as well. This has just popped into my mind. There is no such thing as a fat busting food. There is no such thing as a fat busting supplement. There's no such thing as a fat busting tea or drink or juice. So don't include it in your diet. Just stick to whole, nutritious, my God, whole, nutritionally rich foods. This is like fucking that word. What did I struggle to say last week?
Oh man, that was monumental. I should have wrote that up on the board. I can't remember what it was now.
Honestly, man, my brain is just not functioning. This is a typical kind of midweek day for me. I mean, it looks like you're struggling as well, mate. If you're watching on YouTube, people have seen what you've had for breakfast already twice.
I'm going for the coffee, mate. It needs to kick in. I've got that 2 cans of C4 beside me because it needs to kick in.
Brilliant. The reason I'm a bit buggered is 'cause I got up this morning, I went in to make myself a coffee, and the tin is finished.
Oh man, that's horrible. That you know when
Finito.
you know when you find a tenner in your pocket and you're buzzing, that's like the opposite of
100%. Anyway, do you want to touch on anything that I said earlier about the fat busting food?
Yeah, look, there's without overcomplicating, I think it's important not to overcomplicate things. There are things that take more energy cost to digest in terms of like your veggies, your proteins. High fibrous, nutritious food technically has higher energy cost, which means that your body actually burns more calories to to eat it. But I mean, you're talking like the overall factor is you need to be in a calorie deficit no matter what you do, regardless of what foods that you eat. There was a I shall name unnamed. There was a PT who I remember put up a thing that said you physically can't lose weight, or you can't put on weight, or you can eat as much of this as you want. And he's literally listed 7 foods, and it was like there was chicken,
Mm.
there was watermelon, and there was whatever. And I got his point. They're fibrous, they're high in protein, they're voluminous, whatever. But if you ate 3,000 calories of watermelon and yeah, that's a surplus for you, then you're going to put on body fat. There's too much of it. Your body's going to store what it needs because it's clever like that. You can still eat as much chicken as you want, but you're still going to put on the excess as fat. Your body's going to. It's like trying to put petrol in a car, and it's like the moment that tank is full, it doesn't matter if it's leaded, unleaded, or whatever fuel fucking source that you're using. You're going to end up. It's going to overspill.
Is he like a health advocate for Slimming World?
Probably is. Well, it's fair to say he's actually not in the fitness industry anymore. It was a short-lived career.
No surprises there with that advice.
No, there's no, yeah, there's no surprises.
Since we're on the topic of food, man, I want to talk to you about something that my barber was telling me yesterday. Now, my barber, it does a great haircut, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube.
So I was about to say, mate, before you go in there with a two-footed challenge, just remember this boy is going to be cutting your hair at some point.
He's not going to listen to this. He's not going to listen to this. He's too busy watching Jason Fung and all that on YouTube.
I can't wait to see next time that you go in. You didn't think he was listening. He's gave you the old Ronaldo haircut where you've just got the wee bit at the front.
Brilliant. Do you know what? I'll accept it. I'll accept it. But he's a bit, he's one of these guys. He's a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but it all seems to be based around nutrition. He's one of the guys that goes on the deep dark web, dive into the depths of hell on YouTube and find all these channels that are all these unqualified people talking about nutrition, etc., etc. And he hit out with yesterday. Um, did you know that a 30-day fast kills cancer? And I said to him, I don't know if I believe that, mate. And he's like, how can you say you don't believe it if you've not seen the proof? And I'm like, how can you say you do believe it if you've not seen the proof? And he's like, there is proof. Proof. Okay. He's like, there's been studies done on it. So of course that piqued my interest. I bit my tongue because I didn't want to get into a debate with him whilst he was mid-cut. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. You don't want to do that, mate. No.
Yeah, so it piqued my interest, so I looked it up. Yes, there's been studies done to show that fasting can eh, not not cure cancer as such, but it can have positive impacts on it. But right at the very end of the paper that I was reading, it said presently there's little evidence that intermittent fasting, without any reduction in body weight and proper balanced nutrition and exercise, can enhance cancer outcomes. And that paper was done in October 2022. So this is why so much misinformation gets spread online, because people take one wee snippet of things and then they think it's gospel and they absolutely preach it until they can't preach anymore. So I'm glad I looked it up, because I'm like, and he was telling everybody in the shop, his gran was in, and I think his uncle, and he's like, intermittent fasting this, intermittent fasting that, it cures the body, it does this, it does that, fast for 7 days and you'll be a new person. He's like, I know that they done a study on one guy that was 28 stone, didn't eat for a year because his body just ate the fat stores,
Fat reserves, yeah.
fat reserves. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I believe that. I'm like, who's funding the research? Somebody that's going to profit out of it at the end of this. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Have you ever watched the film on Netflix. Is it the guy who done the Juiced fast for
No.
90 days? Mate, very, very well done. I watched it back in the day, mate, and I was like, Jesus, there's a lot in that. And it was like, if you take juices rather than smoothies, or like, sorry, if you juice something rather than blend it, you lose the fiber content, which means it doesn't need to go through the digestive tract, which means you get a blast of the nutrients, which means you don't actually need to tax your digestive system, which means that your digestive system can rest and your body can heal itself. It's all about fasting. And to be fair, there is a lot of, I have fasted myself twice for 17 days. So fairly qualified to talk about it, considering I've fasted more than most people probably listening to this. Albeit there's fucking the research, like the research you're going to have is how are you going to lock somebody up for 30 days and take their word for it, because otherwise you're taking their word for it, they're fasting. You're not going to be able to do it in such a scale, especially there's an ethical risk when you're talking about cancer patients, and you're like, well, we have what we call science so far on our hands that has a lot of medically proven, don't want to say cures, but things that can very much help it. Versus, well, we take a risk and put these people on a study to see if not giving them food for 30 days actually helps them. You're not going to, it's very hard to get a study that's actually like accurate with that. But I think the mechanism behind it is, or the idea behind it is, if you don't eat food, your body isn't expending energy trying to, again, extract food and again fuel itself, all that carry on. So your body then uses those energy, the spare energy it has, to then heal itself. And there is, like, I mean, there's lots of like people's own perceptions of fasting going, yeah, I feel great. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I felt horrendous for the first 3 days and then felt great for a while after it. And your body does very well at adapting. And I did feel a bit of clarity, and I did feel genuinely better for it. But with that said, is that down to the fact that there's a placebo effect of me just actually accomplishing something? Is it the fact that, again, some of the foods that I was having at the time probably weren't best served? Is it the fact I could then enjoy the experiences of life without having to worry too much about food? There is all that. So I would say that your barber, whilst I don't want to say that he's completely full of shite, you can find an argument for anything at any point on the internet, and if you shout loud enough about it, then there's people that are going to agree with you.
Right, exactly. If you've got the platform to do it, people are definitely going to listen. And if you sound convincing enough in what you're saying, people are absolutely 100% going to believe you. But it's interesting as well, like, see, when you think back to our ancestors thousands of years ago, there'd be times when they were essentially in a state of fasting, like our hunter-gatherer ancestors, see, before we started farming, etc.
Yep.
There'd be times when they were in a state of fasting because they'd need to go and hunt their food and they weren't eating every day. And I mean, I don't know what it was like back then because I wasn't alive, but something seemed to work because we're here today.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there is a lot to say, and there's one argument saying that why intermittent fasting, if you really go down the people who advocate it are like, oh, we're not designed to eat every 3 to 5 hours, we're designed to eat one big meal a day and all that. And I'm like, yeah, but you also look back at your ancestors and they had the average lifespan of about 30 years. Like there's,
Right, that's true.
and again, we don't know if that's just down to food hygiene, all that carry on plays a factor. But at the same time, just because you can do something in the sense that like you could theoretically not wash in 2 weeks, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Like you probably, like what most research says is we're living longer at the moment. We are, don't want to say healthier because that would be wrong, but at the same time, we have the opportunities to be healthier. We have a consistent, like, we have a consistent thread of science that backs up pretty much. We have more education around food. Whether you choose to go with that or not is up to you. But I don't think for a large majority of people that, let's just put it this way, if I got cancer, touch wood, the first thing I would be doing I wouldn't be turning to go, right, I'm not having my porridge in the morning anymore and I'm not going to be eating for the next month. Like that's probably not the route I'd go down if I was being honest.
Aye, 100%. Touching on the shower thing that you didn't, what was the longest you've ever went for a shower? Mine's is hard to beat, I think.
Well, sure, you were living in a fucking van in Canada, like, and you chat yourself at points and we're proud of it. So, like,
hey, that's a story for another podcast.
to be fair, there needs to be a podcast like donated to that, sort of just dedicated to that.
Dedicated.
That's a tough one. I don't know, mate. Actually, like it probably is like 3 or 4 days, and it was probably just down to I think probably when I was at uni, and it was just one of those ones that I was overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I had to do for uni that I was
Hmm.
just surviving on fucking caffeine and staying up doing all the hungover and then drinking caffeine to get myself up and just not realised that I hadn't showered for about 4 days. It's probably about that. But what's yours, mate? Yours is probably about a month or something, isn't it?
21 days.
21 days, class. I'm sure you used to.
21 days. Oh my God, it was in the outback in Australia, so we were just covered in sand and dust, and it was like 30 plus degrees. So we were pretty smelly. Don't get me wrong, like we washed out of and when you're in the outback in Australia, it's just thousands of miles of nothingness. But on the side of the road, every now and again, they have like water tanks that gather rainwater for the 3 days a year that it rains in the outback. So we seen one pulled in. There's a wee tap at the bottom of it, and we're just washing ourselves with this rainwater um, by the side of the road. Luckily, because it is outback, no one is about. So we've seen no cars driving past us. I'm pretty sure Rachel had the tits out. And yeah, we were just on the roadside having a bit of a. It was not anywhere close to a hygienic wash. It was a quick splash of the face and off again.
At least you washed, mate. At that time, it probably meant a lot. Like,
It did, man. It did. Oh my God, it was rough. But do you know what? I would do it all again.
I feel like I'm going to put that up as an Instagram poll today, going, "What's the longest you've went without washing?"
There you go, man. There you go. Conversation started.
I, be brave though. Like, I mean, who's actually going to admit to like on Instagram that you've not washed for like more than like everybody's like isn't like, oh, I wash every day. I'm like, ah, so you do, yeah,
Aye.
yeah, yeah.
I wash twice a day. Twice a day, what are you talking about?
Like I said, you go to the gym 9 days a
Um,
week.
um, there was something else that I was wanting to talk about there. Oh, yeah, just touching on the misinformation side of things. Um, in the gym that I'm working in, we've got a little intern in. She's fresh out of school. She's only 17. She's wanting to learn to become a PT, etc. And she's great. Like she's very interested in it. She asks lots and lots of questions. Is this exercise good for that? What's the best exercise for this or that sort of stuff? She's asking about nutrition, but she's constantly says, I seen on TikTok that this helps that. And I'm like, stop getting your information from TikTok. It's full of unqualified people that don't know what they're talking about, that do stuff that looks good on TikTok. I like stick to the basics and then take it for there.
Don't disagree. I think we've opened up a can of worms. I mean, not us, but I think just as like I feel like we're covering a lot of fucking political issues today. But we've opened up a can of worms just in life where, like, it's so easy to, as we touched on earlier, you can shout loud about something and like. As you said, who's profiting at the end of the day? I think I had this conversation, was it with Jen or with one of my clients or whatever? It was Arnold Schwarzenegger came out and pretty much says it's not great to eat meat all the time. This is a guy who built a career on eating fucking meat and taking steroids.
Hmm.
But then when you watch the documentary that's put on Netflix about eating or how going meat free is the way to go, and Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about all this, he has financially endorsed the vegan products that are getting pushed
Of
at
course.
the end of it.
Aye, of
So like
course.
we're now finding sources of information coming through on entertainment platforms like
Hmm.
TikTok. The internet is a great place. I'm not going to lie. Like it's one of those things that like we run businesses from it. It would be hard not to say like, and I think there are some really good. I've learned a lot from some certain things on Instagram, but at the same time, there is one absolute heap of shite on it as well. And because it's not regulated, and like sure, the fitness industry is probably one of the least regulated things of all time. But like you can say anything and get away with it. So it's important to again look at the science behind absolutely anything that's been spewed, especially anything that claims to be the best exercise or the best food or the best way of doing something is more likely trying to get a hook so that you watch it rather than actually being factually correct. If anything, I'd probably stay away from whatever they're saying. Full stop.
Aye. There's always a hidden agenda behind why they're saying what they're saying. And obviously Arnie, of course, he's putting money into the vegan products that he's trying to push people going towards.
I I love Big Arnie as well, but I mean, it breaks my heart that all the people that used to be my heroes just it turns out like you realise they're a bit of an arsehole as you grow up a wee bit. Like
Aye.
I used
Eddie
to
Abu, is he been one of your heroes before?
still got his poster on my wall, mate.
Is that back when he was jacked to shit, eating tons of food and putting lots of chemicals into his body?
It was him that inspired me to take 8 eggs to college in the mornings and smash someone. That was him all along.
Oh,
He's
oh
right.
my God. I remember the smell of those tubs, man.
What smelt worse, my eggs or you after your 21 days of no shower?
Oh, mate, your eggs, hands down.
I was
I'm pretty sure there was a perimeter runners for people that they walked into it. Oh, what's that? And walked away from it. We just had this big circle runners at empty seats.
not got it because I'm not got actually not my proudest moment here, but a lot better at this stuff, right? But remember 2 weeks ago when we went to the same like conference or whatever you want to call it on
Hmm.
Friday. So I'd got super prepped for things because we had to fly to Glasgow on Thursday, flying to Dublin to drive to Galway on the Friday, Galway for the competition Saturday, over to Sunday back for the in-person workshop. So I mean, I had to be on it with my foods and stuff. So I prepped like my fucking breakfasts for the morning, and I'd prepped my lunch. I had everything, mate. I had everything in Tupperware dishes, put it in my dad's fridge, froze things, whatever. Anyway, once pints got involved on the Friday, I didn't really feel the need for the porridge on the Saturday morning because I was just feeling a wee bit ropey. It was more of a can of caffeine and let's just get on with things, let's move. So anyway, long story long, as I brought that porridge home with me, had it in the Tupperware dish. I got to the point where I was like, after about 3 days, going, it's been travelling a wee bit, should I eat this or not? And I was like, I'll just sat in the fridge. But you know, that way it took me too long to make the decision. So 4 days went by, 5 days, and then it became I need to deal with this issue. And then after 5 days, I'm like, that's still there. 6 days, I'm like, right, that's still there. It's getting to the point where I don't even know if the Tupperware dish is salvageable. Should I just throw out the Tupperware dish? And then I made the decision it's getting thrown out. But it took me 2 days even after that. It was still in the fridge, mate. It was about 8 days in that fridge after being in
Oh,
the fridge for free. It was only about yesterday that it got binned. I was like, right, that's a health hazard.
that is dangerous. I reckon if you opened that, it would have been like the start of The Last of Us, and we'd all been wiped out very, very soon because of 8-day-old porridge
Starting a
that
new
had
pandemic.
been travelling. Aye, that had been travelling.
Maybe I should do what that guy's doing with the chicken and just having like 9 day old porridge to eat 9 day old porridge until I get a tummy ache.
Oh, stop it, man. He's on. I seen a video of him this morning on Instagram. It was like day 16, and he's still not had the Skittles yet.
I'll be honest, I don't know if his ploy is that nobody actually watches him eating the chicken because nobody can actually look at it whilst he's doing it. Everybody's like, oh, he's about to eat that chicken, see you later. But it's absolutely rotten.
It is awful. I have watched him a couple of times. Like it's one of those things. It's that stinking that I can't take my eyes off it.
Nah, man, I'm not good with that. Anything like that, I'm just like, oh, I'm pretty sure with the amount of like undercooked things that I've had in my life, I could probably eat a full raw chicken that'd take me days to die anyway. But like, I wouldn't fancy it on Instagram.
100%. Like I say, it's just one of those horrible, disgusting things that I can't stop watching. But have you ever found that way? Sorry, we're going a wee bit off topic here, but have you ever had a smell, right, that smelled that bad that you keep going back to smell it just to make sure it was that bad?
Me after 5 bags of broccoli, mate. Yeah.
Every Dutch oven. Oh, is it as bad as the last one?
Yeah, there has. Yeah, wheat smells a weird thing, isn't it? But yeah, I have. Yeah,
I know. I don't know. Why do we do that? Why do we know it's bad and then decide to go and put ourselves through it again just to make sure that it was as bad as you thought it was?
yeah. Yeah. It's not just something you do that with the things that you see as well. See if you see something horrible, like as you said about the like the guy eating chicken, you're like,
Aye.
just need to make sure that was as bad. And I'm like, that, sure, that's why gore films exist. People just love to go, is that as bad as what I thought it is? Oh, sure, me eyeballs out what I thought. Has he done that? Ugh.
There
Yeah,
was when I used to work for Foot Locker, remember back in the college days, there was an aisle up in the stockroom that it just stocked Adidas Gazelles.
right.
And the smell that used to come through that aisle, it was like it's like raw fish, like it was like salmon. I don't know, can I specifically point to any specific fish, but it was just like this really strong putrid smell of fish up that aisle coming from the gazelles. Fuck knows why. And I kept going back to that aisle just to make sure that it still smelled the way it smelled.
Like fishy gazelles, like.
It was awful, mate. I don't know why the gazelles smelled like that.
Rotten.
Anyway, um, shall we move on because we get a wee bit sidetracked there, as we always do.
Yes, mate. I think you're needing to go pretty soon. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, mate, we've got 10 minutes. Is there anything you want to touch on? I've got one more wee thing, but if you want to touch
No,
on it, I can keep it for next week.
no, you go on.
Um, well, if you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you so much for listening. If you've not fell asleep yet or went for a shower. So I was just wanting to touch on mobility and why it's extremely important. A lot of people kind of palm it to the side and they don't want to improve their mobility. They want to just get into the gym and lift heavy weights. Um, yes, you want to do that. You want to get strong. You want to build muscle, but see, without proper movement around specific joints, this can become very problematic. I'll use an example for each sex, right? Girls usually want to grow a big bum. You might need to work on some ankle mobility to make that happen. Why? So you can squat properly, so you can do the movements properly, so you can Bulgarian split squat properly. If you aren't able to squat properly and decide that you want to lift heavy, there's a very high risk of doing damage or injury. And guess what that means? You're going to be out the lifting game for a while. No arse. Guys, you usually want to improve your upper body strength, upper body physique, aesthetic, without decent shoulder mobility. This could cause injuries and bang, no big arms or pecs. So a good way to get around that and know if you need to improve on your mobility in a specific area of your body, record yourself from the side squatting, record yourself from the side benching, overhead pressing, and then look back at the video and then go watch instruction videos on YouTube. Stay away from TikTok. Watch instruction videos on YouTube that take you through each phase of the movement, why you should be moving a certain way and how it should look. Obviously, everybody's biomechanics are different, but again, that's another topic for another podcast. But yeah, get on there, get on YouTube, watch some instructional videos from trusted sources, not people with 3 views on a video and comments for people, oh, I love your stuff, man, I love your stuff, bro, and they don't look like they lift. I'm joking, you don't need to look like you lift. But yeah, if you do find something that's going wrong in your lift, if you don't feel like it's right, if you feel that one leg is maybe stronger than the other, if you've got a shaky knee in your squat, take a look at some mobility drills to work on, do them daily. Yes, it's boring, but it only takes a few minutes each day, and then it's going to benefit you way more than you know in the long run. Then when you can start lifting effectively, more efficiently, you're going to be able to lift heavier weights, you're going to be able to get stronger, build bigger muscles, and then boom, big ass.
Big Binder.
Big bunda.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add to that, and it's pretty much just saying what you said, is that a joint can only really produce strength when it's stable and mobile. And
Hmm.
if you're forcing it, and you can force it into that position, whereas like you'll see with a squat, for instance, like you'll find that like people who can't normally squat down to depth, and by depth we're looking at your hip being below your knee, from the kind of side position, or well, parallel is what we call it. You'll find that when you put a bar on your back, because there's weight behind it, you can actively force yourself, for a lot of people, to go down, or you put a little bit more weight on it, becomes easier to go down, and you can do that over time and time and time. But it's not really your joint or your muscles that are putting you down into that position. So if you're then expecting yourself to be able to shoot up from that position, or your joint to produce force from a range that it's not actually got itself into in the first place, it's usually surrounding structures that take the hit. Hence the reason you end up seeing some very non-aesthetic looking squats or deadlifts that start to resemble Alibaba's bucking camel. So Yeah, whilst there is the camp of people who I would maybe disagree with in the sense that everything needs to look absolutely picture perfect before you start doing anything, there is a bit of paralysis by analysis on that. I do think there needs to be a large element of, are you actually able to do the movement that you're intending to do with the safely first, then we add efficiency as long as it's safe first. But the issue is a lot of people skip over the safe part and just decide that fuck it, I'm just going to fire on more and more weight. Like, sure, I watched a guy the other day, maybe not a mobility issue, but more of a strength issue. But again, it still speaks to what we're talking about is he had a bench press and he loaded it up with 80 kilos. Now his 80 kilo bench press looked horrendous. If you've ever seen somebody taking a stroke, it looked quite similar to that. But he decided because he got it off of his chest that he was going to load it up to 100 because why not add 20 kilos? So anyway, enjoying, as we touched on Tyson quite well, looking at things you're not entirely sure how bad things are going to get and not be able to take your eyes off it. I stopped what I was doing completely and just had a good fucking look at over at what was about to happen from my eyes. Thought I was about to witness a guy being killed. But yes, of course, he done it the first time, tried 100. The range of motion went from hitting, well, to be fair, I don't think his 80 hit his chest. His range of motion went from that to a mere elbow bend and tried to get it back up. And he was looking for his mate to go, oh, that was a good lift. And even his mate was like, oh, maybe a bit lower. So again, being subjective about things. After just another minute, he tried it again, and I think it was even shallower. I don't think it moved at all. I don't think his elbows fucking bent at all. But yeah, there is the point where you need to make sure that you're strong in every range of motion that you go to. So another thing not to do is, and we see this quite commonly, is if you do work on getting to a certain range of motion and you find you're strong in that range of motion, make sure that the movement stays consistent when you're adding weight to that. So again, if we take that to a squat, if you can squat to good depth at 60 kilos, let's make sure that at 65 and at 70, you can still do the same before going to 80. Because if you start to cut that range of motion, then you start to lose strength in the range of motion you should be going to, which means you're not strong in that range of motion, which means that you're doing a half-assed job and you are going to come into problems long term.
Bang, bang, boom, bish, bash, bosh.
I can't drop the mic because I've just bought it and I can't.
I want to see this video. Can you send me it?
The video? Oh, no, it wasn't a video.
Aye.
I was in the gym. I was actually in the gym.
Oh, right,
No,
right.
no, I was mate. Oh, believe me, if I had that video, it would be getting shared. But I don't have the video. I was actually in the gym. I was at the other squat rack, and I was just keeping an eye on these guys. Going, there's about to be a murder that's going to be unfolded here. It was horrific looking. Like
That's ego lifting in a nutshell.
yeah, and we all have one to a point, particularly men. There is a point where if it's not being progressive with weights, we always want to hold on to things. There's nothing worse than feeling like you lifted a big achievement, lifting fucking 70 kilos, whatever it is, in a squat, and then somebody telling you that you're not doing it properly. You then start to feel like, I worked hard to get to that 70 kilos, and it turns out that you're not even doing it properly. That can be a wee bit of a, well, fuck them, they're wrong, whatever. Like, it can very much mind. But camera, man, get a camera from the side, see how it's looking. The camera don't lie.
100%, completely agree with that. I think that was a good wee rant to finish it up with, mate. That was class.
Cool. I was happy enough with that, mate. So
Happy that, Kyle. Where can they find you?
BioFitness at BioFitness88. I do recently have TikTok, but it's just recycled videos from Instagram anyway. So you may as well just go to the source. And that's BioFitness88 again, I think, because consistency. What about yourself, Gary? Where can they find you?
Instagram at gmac_health and fitness. Find me there. I will put the link to both our Instagram, in the description of the episode, so you can scroll down and find them there.
Have you got TikTok?
No, and I don't plan on having it anytime soon.
Just a very quick one before we go, mate. I downloaded TikTok years ago when lockdown and everybody was telling us to get TikTok. Mate, it genuinely fries my brain. You go into the home screen and it's just fucking cunts dancing. I'm like, I can't navigate a screen without just sensory overload. It just hangs people fucking dancing to Jason Derulo. Like it's a nightmare. So no, I'm not a big fan.
How did you say his name there?
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.